a little bit past 8, guys, so we're going to get started to be cognizant of everyone's time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight for our, I think this is our 10th consecutive, although maybe 9th, because I think we started in February now, webinar. And this is the second time we're actually splitting these up from locations and groups to try and really focus in on things that can help you all. I'm Amber Karen. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm the Director of Communications here at Wreath Across America. I'm here in Maine. I'm not in Down East, I'm Southern Maine. New Massachusetts, as Karen likes to call it. And we have on Sean Sullivan, who is with us. Sean, I think many of you have spoken with Sean. Sean is the newest member of the communications team. He is our public relations liaison for locations and groups, and he's down in New Hampshire. So for the most part, we'll be doing most of the talking. We do have some members of our team on. I think Sam is on. I'm not sure. Oh, you are there. Hi, Sam. Sam Gatcombe is our, Samantha, excuse me, is our locations and groups social media coordinator. So many of you hopefully know Sam over the years, and she's here to help with any of your social media needs. So to get started tonight, so what we're going to focus on, oh, wait a minute. I say that. Hold on. Wait 1 second. How do I move this forward, Julie? Oh, never mind. Yeah, got it. So the focus for tonight is talking about promoting Wreath Day and registering volunteers. And these two go hand in hand because it's going to be really important, we think, this year for all locations to really make sure that we're clear about what's happening at your location. So even if you haven't had to modify your events, even if it's still just business as usual, it's really going to be very important this year with everything going on that you communicate effectively with your community and the media who can help you communicate with your community about what they need to know for Wreath Day. So we have some tools that we're going to help you with to really think about and things to be really working through as we move forward. It's middle of October. It's not too early by any means to start really getting the word out about your event. And also, Julie and team, we've been working really closely with our web developer to add some new functionality to the Wreath Across America pages that will make it a little bit easier for locations to register and monitor volunteers. So for some of the larger cemeteries, there will be more of a requirement to have maybe multiple days of wreath laying or multiple times or locations to get into the cemetery. And the updates to this tool is going to make it very helpful, we hope, for everybody to be able to organize that a little bit better so that we are hopefully removing some of that stress for Wreath Day and trying to keep track of volunteers coming in numbers. In some cases, some of the medium-sized and larger cemeteries, that's going to be important. So those are kind of our goals for today. So to start, and we can, at any point, I can't see if anyone's raising their hand or saying anything, but so I'll rely on the liaisons to jump in here. So in the last location connection that hopefully everyone received, and if you did not receive that, it goes out at the end of each month. So if you did not receive that in your email at the end of September, please let your liaison know and we will check your settings, because sometimes if you unsubscribe to certain emails, you might have accidentally unsubscribed to these alerts that we send out. But in the location connection for September, we sent out 2 press release templates. And those templates are designed for you to be able to customize and send out to your local media about your event. So we took two directions on these. One was Wreath Day is happening with modified details for the day. So that is, wreaths are being placed at your cemetery, but the public needs to know about changes. Maybe the ceremony is not going to take place as scheduled. Maybe there's going to be registration requirements for volunteers, and maybe there's a limit for volunteers. there might be some other COVID requirements of the cemetery that you need to inform people about. That's really the first one. The second one is you've exhausted all of your options. You've talked with your liaison, you've talked with your local community, health advisors and cemetery officials, and it just is not possible to be able to have the event this year for reasons that are outside of your control. In that circumstance, we have created a template that will help position that, that really helps people understand what is able to happen, and that in all cases, fundraising can continue, and other opportunities might be there to honor the veterans as part of Wreaths Across America Day. So we're going to go through both of those a little bit, but really part of the reason why we wanted to really go through these is that it's really important, especially this year with this whole, there's a little bit of a cancel culture right now. We really want to steer clear of the word canceled. Even if it's just your ceremony that isn't happening because you can't have crowds and you're still placing wreaths, anytime you use the word canceled in something that goes to the media, even if it's like the third paragraph down, that will be your headline, plain and simple. That is just the nature of how it's an attention grabber from a media standpoint. Media are looking for things that are going to grab people's, not only their attention, but, sell newspapers and are the most glamorous of things to say. So we really want to encourage you to steer clear from that word. And as much as possible, focus in on what will be happening. So focus on what can be done in your community versus what maybe can't happen, and keeping that positive tone on the mission and what the community is able to do together has had some really positive results so far. And so I'm going to keep going, but Sean, please jump in if there's anything as I'm going through this that you'd like to add, please.
I know there's a good example coming up in a little bit for how messaging really helps. Yep, there you go.
Yeah, and this is, and I want to be clear that this is in no way us, this is not anyone's fault. This is not this is none of our volunteers' fault. This is an example of this, a headline that was created by a member of the press because it was a pretty glamorous headline. This is going to get someone's attention, right? And this is really not where we want our storylines to go. Because at this point, you reading that headline, you have no idea what the mission means. You have no idea the positive that is happening in the community and those groups that are still fundraising. So it's really a critical situation where what you put out there to the media, we really encourage you to kind of work along the lines of the messaging that we've provided. And if you have any questions about something that you've drafted that you want us to take a look at, Sean and I are happy to do that. We've already done that for several folks who've reached out to their liaisons and just needed a little bit of tweaking as to, the direction to go, because we want to try and avoid these types of headlines.
Amber, this is Karen. I don't know if you hear me. Hi. A lot of background noise here, but I think that's for me, if I was sitting out there, if I'm trying to it is important to have a message that, we don't have enough money, and you can't always control, as you know, what the press will pick up for a headline. So what is the suggestion on that? Because I bet half of the people would like to get the message out that our numbers are down and they need to help, but when you go and try to do it in a story type form, the press will pick it up sometimes and make it a negative. So is that something that we can template for people that are having trouble with numbers? And on top of that, I just want to add to encourage everybody today, I think, without going into detail, Amber, you can certainly let everyone know. Well, it's been a great day. We've had a great day because people, actually some corporate.
Oh,
just went on mute there.
Karen.
I can't find her to unmute her. That was my.
There you go. You're back.
So I was saying I just wanted to give people encouragement. First, if we can template something like that has a headline, sometimes they'll take it if they're given a headline, but I think we could maybe help that way. And then I just wanted to give a word of encouragement because we we had some other stuff going on today, but then we had some good stuff going on. And honestly, you'd be surprised. There are some companies that are actually offering extra money because some of the things they were supporting and having events and stuff. And we actually had some corporate sponsors reach out to us today with some good words. So I do think that if people know, like we did see in the last couple of weeks, a couple of places that were discouraged and not actually going to cancel, and then the community came together to keep the event. So I guess the question, Amber, is what's the headline? What can we give people as a template to ask in the right way so that it doesn't come across as desperate and like this?
Yep. Oh, I think that's a great question, Karen. So yeah, I think that's the line though. We don't want to sound desperate.
And we're not allowed to come near that house.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear. So yeah, I think that's a great question, Karen. So there's a couple different ways we would approach that based on your circumstance. I think really still focusing in on the line though of what we are doing. So I think say you have a cemetery that has 1,000 headstones and you only have 100 wreaths sponsored. I think that's okay to let people know, how many days I should know this because of the countdown, but I don't off the top of my head. We're not too many days away from Wreath Day. XYZ Cemetery is 10% towards its goal, going to still fulfill its mission and place whatever wreaths are sponsored. Please help join us in remembering, honoring, and teaching. And we obviously, that's off the cuff and we would fine tune that. But yeah, you would want to let people know where things are and what has been done and where there's opportunity. I think it's letting the community know where there's an opportunity to help. And if you can phrase it in that way, and we can certainly, I think that's a great idea. We can put together a template of kind of really, that really announces the fact that you're still in need of help, but we're going to continue with the mission. And if anything, that can be part of the announcement of, Wreath Day is happening. Like Wreath Day is happening. This is where we are, and we're X number of days out. We're asking the community to come together and help support this effort. So I think that's an easy way to do it. Look at it from, Sean, you might have another idea, but off the top of my head, that's how I would approach it.
I do. The other approach to that, not only to have a template and have your wording already set before you go to the media, but also make sure that you're building relationships with these people. It's very hard to do something like this to a friend or somebody that you know, or somebody that's going to be able to pick up the phone and contact you back, than it is to send something blind out of the blue, send it via email and say, please run this. Because at that point, they have a little bit of license to change things up and do what they call making it sexier for the paper. So to build those relationships, once you get an email from somebody, once you connect with them, talk with them a little bit, see if you can get them on the phone and build a little rapport with them. And in doing so, not everybody's going to be responsive to that, but those that are, you'll be able to build a strong media contact that'll help you into the future as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that I definitely encourage people to do when talking to the press, and I still do this and been involved with Wreaths Across America for a very long time. One of the first questions when I'm talking to any member of the press is, how familiar are you with the program? Have you ever participated? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a great question. Mostly because it helps level set the conversation a little bit. You'll find out if that reporter, have they ever heard of Wreaths Across America? Have they participated? Because the ones who have participated are going to be much more willing to have a conversation with you and to understand what your needs are locally. To say, if you talk to somebody who's been, yes, I went to this, I was out in Michigan and I was able to do this at my grandfather's grave. It was a life-changing experience. You then have somebody who cares about what they're about to put out. So I think that's a great conversation. Even when you're doing an interview, it's totally okay to ask questions and to really get a level set of, what do you know about the program? Have you been there? And if they haven't come, encourage them to come out. It's one of those experiences that I think is difficult to sometimes explain to people why it matters until they participate in it. And I think that you have to keep in mind that at the end of the day, members of the press are just people too. And if they can participate in something, they're going to be less likely to write a headline like this. So again, this isn't here to scare anybody, but it is one of those things where it is important that the way that it's phrased can, I mean, and you sometimes cannot control this. The media is the media. They are going to, they're going to do what they need to do to sell papers and get viewers. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in now, but there are some things that we can do to help that. So that being said, certainly happy to write some, you know, tips, and we'll put the in this month's location connection.
The other thing too to keep in mind with something like that is that folks in the media, even though they're in the media, that's the industry they know. They don't know our industry. They don't know any of the other industries that they work for. They literally have to learn an entire industry almost in minutes in order to put something together to educate the community. And interestingly enough, most media sources, the way that they're structured is that they serve the community first, protect the community second, and then make money. That's how they're supposed to be set up. And in a situation like this, it could be as simple as somebody put together this headline and thought, oh, you know what? This will grab headlines. This is good journalism. It's what they taught me in school. This is great. But as the expert from the Wreaths Across America point of view, you could literally point to them and say, I don't know, that term war dead is a little strong and may be offensive to some mothers that have lost their sons. And that person would suddenly say, oh, I didn't realize I was being insensitive. Oh, thank you for letting me know. Great, I won't use that then. And it really is an education process. And being able to build that rapport and work with them will help them be able to create better media.
Yep. So the next two slides really are just the kind of intro to both of these two press releases, just to go through a little bit. So this is, you know, one of the things that as far as letting people know that Wreath Day is happening in your community, if, you know, when we're talking about fundraising, that it is just as important to let people know, because a lot of people are just making some assumptions right now that because everything has been canceled, that Wreath Day is canceled. So if you can let people know sooner than later that it is in fact happening in your community with some modifications, it's important to do that. The sooner you can get that out and let people know. And then in all circumstances, anytime you reach out to the media, please never forget to send your direct link to your fundraising page. For anyone that doesn't know, it's just wreathsacrossamerica.org/your ID. So whatever your ID is, that's your direct link, your custom URL to your page. And in doing that, you know, as much as they can posting that on your social media pages, please make sure you're always including that and including how people can give and why it's important to give in their community. If there's sponsorship groups you want to call out, if there's a local effort that's underway, use the opportunity while you are announcing something important to make sure they know those other things. It's okay to include those at the bottom. So that being said, this is really just stating the facts. Wreaths Across America Day is happening. We're local volunteers who coordinate the program at which cemetery. So let's be clear, we, in all circumstances, Wreaths Across America is the guest of the cemeteries that we're participating at. So I want to be clear that it's not the actual cemetery itself that's making this announcement.
I pressed the button, it said screenshot, right?
Yeah, well, I had the
and then basically it'll give the opportunity for you to customize what the specific details are for your event. So once we get later on and we talk about the volunteer registration app, if you in fact need people to register for your event so that you can keep track of that, I highly encourage you to put a direct link and call out, this is what we need people to do. People need to register for this event and here's where you go to register. So be very clear about anything you put out to media, exactly what you want the public to do, because that makes it very clear for them, especially if they're just gonna end up printing or running your press release verbatim. Don't leave any question as to what you actually need from folks. So that's this first release. And then the second one is really a little bit trickier. We don't have a whole lot of cemeteries who are falling into this category. But again, trying to steer clear of the word canceled, in that, you know, obviously there's some challenges amid what's happening with COVID-19. But it's important for people to understand that fundraising and sponsorship groups are still collecting paybacks. You can still fundraise and really do a huge push right now to try and help yourself be into a better situation in 2021. But it's really important, again, that we try and mitigate the risk here of sounding like we're just kind of, you know, not able to make it happen, because in most cases, Wreaths Across America is going to happen across the country. So highlight the things that you can do. Will there be a virtual ceremony? Will there be ceremonial wreaths placed, or maybe a, you know, a state house ceremony or something in the community that people can participate in? Highlight the things that are still happening and how people can still be involved in the program, because we don't want to lose those folks, especially on the local level, who maybe have been committed to the mission and really might be disappointed that it's not able to happen this year. So looking through and really thinking through the messaging on that, I highly encourage anyone, if they're in the situation of not being able to have an event, your location coordinator, your location liaison should know that by now. And if you need help customizing how to get this message out, Sean and I are here to help. So please reach out to your liaison, because this is one that, you know, it can be a little bit more sensitive, and we want to make sure that we're aware of other things happening in your community. So, but both of these press release templates are available. I think the liaisons that are on chat, you can send those. They were posted to the website, but for some reason they're not there right now, but we're fixing that. And we will post them obviously in the group pages as well. But again, they're guides. They're here for you to utilize and customize as best you can. And if you have any questions, please reach out. So first and foremost, I mean, that's the message, but then really it's important to understand how to contact your local media. And I know this sounds, you know, for some of you, this might be really basic information, but this is one of those things that I've been in, you know, public relations for almost 20 years. And this has evolved and changed how you find local media. It's not necessarily as cut and dry as everyone might think. Media changes rapidly. There are smaller and smaller newsrooms. There are people wearing multiple hats in media. There used to be, when I started this job, you know, what was a 30-person production crew for one show is now maybe 4 or 5 people. So it really has, the titles have changed and people's roles have changed. So utilize the resources available to you. You know, Sean and I have resources available to us in terms of platforms and where we can do some research and such. However, ultimately, our number one friend is the internet. And really, we're just like anybody else. And if I find an article by some, you know, an outlet that has to do with, you know, Gold Star families, I'm going to look that person up who wrote that story. I'm going to look up other stories that they might have written. I'm going to look up that publication and see the types of articles they're writing. Is that someone that we should add to our list to reach out to for the future? And so you can do that kind of research, but ultimately, you all know your communities better than we could ever know. We can look on the internet and I can, you know, Google all day long, but you guys know who you're listening to on local radio. You know what you're watching for your, you know, your 6 o'clock news, and you know what you're reading. So start with what you know. You know, create a list of those media outlets that you're familiar with, that you know that your community pays attention to. Then ask your friends, or maybe do they listen to something that maybe you're not familiar with, or listen to a different station. And then once you identify those outlets, you can do a little bit of research. Most TV national news networks, so the main networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, all have local affiliates depending on your demographic. And you can look up what those local affiliates are. Sean, you listed here Wikipedia, but same thing with like radio stations. you can look up the local affiliates for some of these big conglomerates, and most of them have something within your vicinity where you can find the outlet itself. And once you've established that, identify those outlets that are important to you, and then from there you can go a bit deeper and look for the contacts. Anything to add,
Yeah,
Rashawn?
it's really interesting to go through this too. I mean, I did a little bit of a search here to give you an idea of what it takes, and it does take work. It is legwork. There's no getting around that. But you'll see here, the first thing I did is I went to the internet and Wikipedia, and I just typed up list of. I started right off with list of and what I was looking for. So first thing is ABC TV, of course, like Amber said, NBC, CBS, Fox, your local newspapers and things like that. Just list of, and it'll come up. And when you do that, it'll have underneath that, you can go right to the bottom and you'll see that list where it starts off with Alabama and Alaska, and it literally will have every single state with every major region of that area. So you can key on in a region. In this particular one, I keyed in on the top one there with WDHN. So I went into that. And as we go to the next page, what you'll see is this is their website on the left. And one of the tricks that media has, and just so everybody kind of is aware, the FCC, because it's an entity that's supposed to be serving the community, their information to contact them has to be available to the community. So the information is on the website. Now, here's the game. That doesn't necessarily mean they have to make it easily available. And when I say that most media people tend to get somewhere between 800 and 3,000 emails a day from people trying to get their attention and their stories across, it's true. They get a lot of emails per day. So they do what they can to make sure that they're not getting internet spam and all kinds of invitations from some king in Nigeria and things like that. So as you look at the website, it's really hard to see where to go for that information. Now you look up in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see 3 lines right next to the ABC logo. Those 3 lines indicate that there's a menu there. So if you click on those 3 lines, what you see on the right-hand side is what shows up. And I actually had to scroll down. And interestingly enough, where they put their contact information had nothing to do with news, sports, weather, or anything like that. They labeled it under legal. So they were hiding it a little bit. And you'll see in the circle there, there's the contact for the station and the contact for the news team. And I would advocate that you go to both. The contact section, what that'll get you is generic things for the media source, things like news tips, contact with managers, things of that sort, public service announcement email addresses. However, by going to the news team, this is where you're going to get the personalities and the people. That's another label they put in there. Instead of news team, they'll say people. And that'll show you the people that work in the news media. So if you can go to the slide.
Yeah, the next page, yeah.
Yep. So what you'll see here is on the left-hand side, that's their page that shows all the people that work there. And the gentleman that's circled on that page, on the right-hand side, that's the blown up side. That's what happens when you go into the internet. This is the information that you're getting on him. And notice where it's circled on his page, there's his email address, and it's not something you can click on. It's something you literally have to copy and paste onto either another document or into an email in order to send to this person. And you would have to do that for every single one of these people. And I would advocate to do that. And the reason being is because the media is different. The notion of traditional media is gone. So to send to a TV station and have one reporter do a story on your event, your donations, your giving, and the good work that you're doing in the area, that's the one reporter who may get it on TV. And whoever was watching TV that night may have gotten the story, but nobody else. And once it came, it went because it's television. But these journalists in today's day and age are all multimedia journalists. So the entity that they work for not only hires them to be on TV, they hire them to write blogs. They hire them to tweet, to make Facebook posts. And they, in most cases, the companies actually have mandates and quotas that they have to do a certain amount per day. Now, when you take into account what Amber said a little bit earlier with them working multiple stations and having deadlines and all this other stuff, it's really hard to meet all those quotas without help from the audience. So when you send them a press release, believe it or not, some of these reporters are going to be in desperate need of information. Now, it may not get on TV, but it could get into their blog, it could get into their tweet. And keep in mind, because they are on TV, they do have their own audience. Each reporter in this day and age is their own media source. So if you send to one TV station and you do get that one piece that goes on TV, the other 15 reporters that we're seeing here on the screen can also put that on their blogs, tweets, and so forth. So it maximizes your media output. So if you have one connection with a TV station, that's great, that's wonderful. Ask that connection how you get in touch with everybody else so you can send them the information too.
Okay. And to kind of add to that, so some of the titles to look for people: community news reporter, community news editor, feature reporter, feature editor, assignment editor. Kind of speaking to what Sean was saying, you know, a lot of these folks, anyone who has any kind of web related title in their information likely is going to be someone to reach out to. It's really one of those things where I know it seems like a lot of work. We're here to help you though. So if it doesn't need to be necessarily you don't need to send it to, 50 people. If you know someone locally that works for your community paper and you know that they care about Raise Across America, start there. That's a great place to start. Starting with a news editor or community news editor, they might be able to direct you to the right person on their team to talk to. So, there's a lot of tools available online in terms of looking up press, but, feel free to reach out. We can certainly help. If you're struggling to find a contact, we can do a little bit of work for you there. So make sure to ask. We're definitely here to help. But I will encourage you, when you're emailing contacts in the media, try to make it an individual email. Sending out bulk emails sometimes, if you have a lot of people to reach out to, I understand, but media doesn't want to see other media in the two line. So, make sure that they're individualized. If you read a recent article that someone did, note that, let them know, hey, I saw that article you did on the local veteran in the community, and I think this would be a great story and is right in line with some of the things that you are sharing with the community. So it's okay to put that out there, but make sure to be really clear. What do you want them to do? Do you want them to interview you? Do you want them to come to the event? Do you want them to promote the event? Just be really crystal clear and give them a way to reach you. So when contacting media, so first and foremost, I think it's really important. I've said this already, and I feel like a broken record, but I'm gonna say it again. Please do not reach out to the media if you have not already told your regional liaison what you are doing with your event. It's really important that we understand what is happening for your cemetery before finding out about it in the news. That way we're making sure that we're really clear about what can be done. We're helping to make sure that we're meeting all the criteria, and that way whatever is going out doesn't need to be corrected. So please just make sure that if you haven't yet already, contact your regional liaison and let them know what you're doing. Please do that. And then once that's done and you guys have confirmed your plans and you're set, and they can help you get your alert set on your website, and everything ready to go with the updates, then you're good to go. And that way, when you're directing people to your page and your direct URL, whatever they're going to see on your page is going to be consistent with what you're putting out in the media. So that is important to have that consistency. Obviously, if there's anything for press, if their press are not going to be, if they need to register, for instance, this year might be a prime example of maybe needing to register because you're keeping numbers down. Make sure you are very clear about that. In order to attend the event, we would like for you to register and let us know how many members of your team will be there, and make sure you're just really outlining what you'd like them to do. So before we actually get into Facebook, one of the things I just want to, the media really can, especially in these smaller communities, be a good friend to Wreaths Across America. I cannot express enough. Every day we see so many positive stories. I mean, Karen and I had this conversation regularly, and Sean's been monitoring on a pretty robust level here and sharing some really great stories. You guys are doing a great job. Like I can't say it enough. I mean, it's been really wonderful to see how people are pulling together and making it work in their community. So I feel like, hopefully there was something there that we've talked about that's new information that might help you. But ultimately, we're here to help however is necessary. Every situation is a little bit different and can be customized. But really coming back to the message and identifying the people in the local media that would be the best people to talk to is a great first step. So in addition to media, we also want to talk about social media, because social media is a really great tool and somewhat underutilized by the Wreaths Across America community. We only have about 10% of our locations nationwide who are utilizing Facebook to share details about their event. And there's a really great opportunity here because people tend to, I'm myself included, if I can't find something online, one of the first things I'll do is go to Facebook and see if especially if it's an event related activity, is there an event page for it? Is there any information that I can find on Facebook that would help me to better prepare for going to an event? We utilize it from a Wreaths Across America official page standpoint. Creating a Facebook event is a great way to let people know all the details of what's happening, and you can invite people. So if you have friends on your own, if you have your own Facebook page and you would like to invite people, it's a great way to get the word out about going to the event and having them share it as well. So I don't know, Sam, are you there to kind of walk through these steps for us a little bit?
Yeah, it's super easy, and Facebook has actually just did an update, so it might look a little different. And if you need any assistance, you can feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. But it's really super simple. All you have to do is on your Wreaths Across America Facebook page, there's a tab on the left-hand side that says events. And if you click that, there's 2 create event buttons. You can click either one of those and a new screen will open up where you can add all of the important event information, like naming your event and the location where it's going to be. You can tag your cemetery, you can add co-hosts, and that will really grow your reach. The more amount of co-hosts you have or the more people you invite, the bigger your reach is and the more you can expect an outcome from it.
Mm-hmm. So people that you could, examples of people you could invite as co-hosts could be the cemetery. If the cemetery has a page, invite them. If you have, community leaders within the region or sponsorship groups that have their own pages, I would certainly invite them to be co-hosts of the event. It's just a great way for them to understand and be really clear. Again, in here, list it, yes, less is more, but in this detail, when it comes to details for an event like this, especially if there's modifications, be clear. Don't let people assume anything, especially this year. If you want them to wear gloves, if you're requiring masks, if they have to have a ticket, everything needs to be outlined so that it's as easy as possible for people to know where to go, to get what they need, to be able to arrive on Wreath Day and have no issues. You're going to, in the long run, save yourself a lot of hassle if people are coming with the information that they need. So Facebook events is a great way to do this. Another aspect of Facebook that I definitely want to encourage people to use, and is a little bit, I think, you know, even for me, I get a little nervous about it, is Facebook Live, and Sam's laughing at me because I literally feel like I screw this up every time. And the funny thing is that it's really one of the most simple things in the entire world. I just like it better when she does it. So using Facebook Live is a great way, once you do have an established following, to get people just informed. Even if you went on live like once a week leading up to Wreath Day saying, hey, you know, here's the exciting things happening. This is what we're doing today to prepare for Wreath Day. Here's where you can go. Introduce people in your community who are helping to make Wreath Day happen. I mean, one of the things that, you know, we've been talking a lot about at HQ is that this is so much bigger than any one person or one group. I mean, there's so much work that is going into this program nationwide. Tell people what you're doing. Show the people who are helping in your community to make Wreath Day happen. You know, do little interviews or as such. I mean, we talk about like the flag waving. I mean, Karen goes live on the flag waving every Tuesday, usually, you know, around 9:30ish sometimes. I mean, those views, she's on for what, 3-4 minutes tops, maybe. And that's turned into literally, you know, thousands of views each week where people just look forward to it. So giving those updates and just giving kind of a face to what's happening in your community. So Sam, you can talk through this. I don't trust myself to tell people how to use it.
Again, this one's super easy.
I know it's super easy.
I do know with an iPhone, you have to make sure that your screen orientation isn't locked. So that way when you turn your camera, it doesn't stay horizontal instead of vertical. So when you do that, you'll just want to go to your Facebook location page. And if you're going live from a personal page and not a location page, just make sure your privacy settings are changed to public so that it can be shared by other viewers. And then when you get to your location page, you just click publish, and there's a list of options. There's like add a file, add photo, video, and then there's a go live. So you'd click that, and then I like to have my description for what's happening ready before I start so that I don't have to worry about it. So ahead of time, get your description in there, and then all you have to do is click that start live button. And it does take a couple of seconds to get going. So you'll want to, if you have somebody else on screen, you'll want to be able to give them a signal or something to let them know when you're ready.
Yeah, and we'll put this this graphic in our group pages and make it available. I mean, Sam's actually, I don't know if anyone who's in our private location page and sponsorship group pages on Facebook, Sam's been kind of dropping every week. She's been putting some tips in there and tricks to just, you know, for scheduling and how to use the tool more efficiently. So, but certainly reach out to Sam. She's definitely available. She's helped a lot of people in the last few weeks get pages set up. And, you know, for this year in particular, I think it's really going to be a useful tool for ceremonies. You know, for people who in most cases, like for instance, the national cemeteries are limiting the number of people that can be at a ceremony. So really putting it on Facebook or pre-recording it and sharing it afterwards are really going to be the best ways to share what's happening there. So starting now and kind of getting people excited about what's happening in your community, they'll be more interested in participating come Wreath Day. So wanted to share that too. So our last piece here, because I know we're getting tight in time here, is that it's just really important, and I mean, it's important always, but this year it seems like it's more important than ever to remind everybody, Wreaths Across America, the national nonprofit, is a non-political organization. So when we are talking about promoting events, we're talking about using social media, we're talking about speaking to the media and hosting events, we want to just remind you that you are representing the organization, and as much as it might be difficult to sometimes keep your personal feelings and opinions out of things, that we ask that you please try and remain focused on our mission to remember, honor, and teach, and really stay on track with all the good that is happening in your community. There's a lot of things that divide us as a country, politics being clearly the number one thing. And it's very easy to get caught up in that, especially and especially with media. I mean, that's one of those things where media might be a very friendly interview and they might just try and slip in something to see, you know, what your thoughts are. And the answer is, you know, as an organization, we're here to remember, honor, and teach, and we're bringing our community together today. And it doesn't matter what your politics are to be part of this program. So just want to put that out there as a reminder as we head into the next couple of months. And, you know, keeping the brand separate. It's one thing to have your personal opinions on your personal Facebook, social media pages, but when we're talking about the Wreath Across America brand pages, that we just need to be mindful of that. So if there's anything that you ever have question on and you're not sure about, or you see something that, you know, raises concerns, please let me know. And Sam and I will be happy to take a look and help you through it. So just a reminder for everybody. Now, so I know we're running up on the end of the meeting, but I want to just talk through. So the new messaging app, which is actually going to be pushed live, I think tonight, Julie.
Yes.
Yes. Supposed to be last night, but it's tonight. Julie, I'm going to actually let you talk through this, but really we're really excited about this. We hope it's going to help everybody. It's going to be really important this is not something that everyone has to use. This is an option. So just know that. So it's something, if you would like to use it and you feel as you need to have some level of management for your volunteers or ticketing for your volunteers for days, times, whatever. We are very hopeful that this is going to really put it in a much easier situation for you to manage. So on that note, I'll let Julie kind of talk through this.
So first, we're just going to kind of briefly go through the messaging on the dashboard. And most of you are already familiar with it. If you're not, we do have some more extensive webinars that we've done specifically on this piece. And you can also always reach out to your liaisons and we can help you send those out. But the biggest thing is communication. We want to make sure we're letting whatever your plans may be, we want to make sure we're communicating those with our volunteers, your groups, and the sponsors for your locations. And you can do that by going to the messaging app within your dashboard when you're logged in. You would click on messaging. It's going to open up. You're going to click your page that you want to send it from. If you are a location coordinator and a group leader, you're going to see like two options there, and you want to make sure that you choose your location page because that it's going to go to, if you have multiple groups fundraising or people who sponsor just through the location, not the group, you want to make sure that they're seeing this message too. Then you just click on the group that you want to send it to. You will have to send a separate one. Like if you want to do volunteers, sponsors, and fundraising groups, you'll have to do each one separately. You can't do them all at one time. But you would click on like volunteers, then you just click the template message that you want to choose from. We do have some new messages, templates that will be released in there shortly. So if you don't see something that works for you now, either reach out to us and we can help you write something that works, or if you check back shortly, maybe in the next week, we'll have it in there. Yes. And then when you can edit this too, you can edit the templates that's in there and, you know, customize it to the specific needs, you know, make sure you share your specific plans, and then you just hit send and it's gonna go. And again, if you have problems with that, you run into trouble, just give your liaisons a call and we can help. We can send them for you or we can help walk you through sending them. So for the volunteer registration piece, it is going to go live tonight, like Amber said, and we're actually really excited. I think this is going to be a really helpful tool for helping manage the volunteers this year, and even in the future, you know, for things like cleanup and other events that you may have. You will, and it is optional. So what you'll do is we sent out, I don't even know, 2 weeks ago, we sent out a form to all of you with to share your plans that you had in place once you had them. Some of you, a lot of you submitted those already. If you haven't, as soon as you have those in place, you want to get those over to us and we can help you create these. What we'll do is you can set up, so you can see on here where they've got this location is placing race on Friday and Saturday. So they're staggering for different days. Once you click on the individual day, so what you're seeing from here is if someone goes to your location page and they click on volunteer, it's going to pull up this first box that says volunteer registration and has the 2 dates. Once they click on the date that they want to participate, it would open up the next box where you see first wave and second wave. And there can be as many waves as need be. So if you have, 100 volunteers that you need to get on one day and you need to do them with only 10 people at a time, you're going to have 10 different waves for that day. There's no limit. And again, we'll help you set that up because that might be a little bit of work. So we definitely respect your time as volunteers and we're happy to help do that. So when you set up the wave, that's just what we're calling it. You can call it whatever you want, but when you create that, you can actually put in the number of people that are limited for that time. Once it's filled, it will not allow anyone else to register for that time. So that way you're managing your volunteers and you're not going to have more people show up than you can have in the cemetery at the time. Now, I do recommend setting that to have a buffer because we know that some people are just going to show up whenever they want. And so that way you don't have to have that uncomfortable conversation of sending people away. If you know you can only have 45 people in at a time, maybe set your limit for that time for 35 people so that you have that room there. Also, you want to make sure that you go ahead and talk to your cemetery director and have just a real conversation with them and find out how they want to handle a situation if someone shows up and you don't have room for them, as far as like if you just have them standing off to the side and waiting until they can come in at a later time, or how they want to handle that.
Yeah, we don't want, to be really clear, we do not want our volunteers feeling they need to police in any way. So make sure there's a plan in place and, give yourself room. I mean, no matter what we do and we drive people all to the right places, there are going to be people who just show up, who didn't read anything, who didn't get the memo or any of the information. And here we are for Wreath Day. And, we just need to plan for those people and make sure that, we can try and accommodate as best we can, as long as they're following the rules that are set forth and understand what your cemetery is willing to allow. So it's important to have those conversations. And I think that's actually kind of this last slide. We're just kind of reiterating some of the things we've already talked about and some of the things we talked about last week. So the liaisons sent out a Google form a couple weeks back now, asking you to update them with any information about your event. If you have not done that, please send that to your liaison as soon as you can so that your pages can be updated and that we can be informed about what's happening and prepare from a logistics standpoint. It's really critical that we have an understanding of all events that are taking place this year. And then also this will allow us the opportunity to add a page alert to your Wreath Across America location page about specifics for your event. The messaging module we're updating right now. We should have all the updated messages that have some COVID specific changes in there by early next week. And then, reiterate, Julie just said, have a direct conversation with your cemetery director. If you're not with a national or state cemetery, local cemeteries, whomever is in charge locally in your community, that you're just having as much of a transparent conversation as possible so that there aren't any surprises. As far as it comes to people reaching out, right now, there are a lot of folks that are still working through what those plans are. It's okay to tell people that you're still working through your plans and that where to go to find updates. So if they're going to be posting them on your pages, which we would like for everyone to do, if you're going to be posting them on Facebook, if you're going to make an announcement, all of those things, let people know when and where they can find details if you're still working through. So don't, but make sure that before any of those things get posted and shared, you talk to your liaison so that we can help work through any issues or concerns you might have. So that's what we have for you guys. I know there's a little bit of time here, so I